If I may have your attention, please. At this time, we're going to begin the services here in the sanctuary for Mr. Craig Lawrence Geller. As we begin the service, I would ask if any of you might have a cell phone or any other noise-making device, please turn them off at this time. Officiating the services here today will be Rabbi Philip Sherman, Rabbi Jason Fenster, and Cantor Jennifer Frost. Thank you.
Ya Elai, 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 Ya Elai, 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 Ya Elai, 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 Ya Elai, 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 Ya Elai, 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 Ya Elai, 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 Elai. Ya Elai, 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 Ya Elai, 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 Ya Elai, 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 Elai. Ya Elai, 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 Ya Elai, Ya Elai, Ya Elai, Elai, Elai. Ya Elai, 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 Ya Elai, 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 Ya Elai, 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 Ya Elai, 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 Ya Elai, Elai, Ya Elai.
Ecclesiastes, Kohelet wrote, "The eye never has its fill of seeing. Young or old who depart this life never see enough of this world, never complete their task, never cherish their loved ones enough before they are called home. How they yearn for yet another respite from the final summons, and how we yearn to have them close to us for yet another challenge in our lives, yet another joy, yet another precious moment together. God, be now with those whose hearts are broken because whenever parting comes, it comes too soon. Console them at this moment. Be near to them when light seems distant. Sustain them, O God, until the time of healing." As we gather in this sacred space to remember Craig Geller, there's so many painful feelings and emotions that we bring with us. There's the deepest despair, shock, anger, pain, and brokenness. When we gather as a community, especially in a sacred community at a synagogue, it is customary to greet one another with a word of shalom, of peace or of goodness. But there's no goodness in this moment, for there's nothing right about our gathering today. We shouldn't be here. It's not the way things should go. There's a great sense of brokenness here. When we say shalom, we also imply a sense of wholeness of which there is none right now, not for this family or our community. Not for a family that has endured the most painful of losses. To arrive here again is unthinkable. And the shattered wholeness that we all feel in this moment creates lots of broken pieces. And these broken pieces that we hold right now will never return to the same form. But what exists in those empty spaces, in the fractures, and in between those pieces is memory. The stories and communal love and comfort. It is in this way we pray that the Geller family will one day begin to see a new kind of whole, one that has been held up and held together by memory, by community, and by an abundance of care and love. Craig loved people, and people loved him. Craig was full of light, radiating happiness and joy, the originator of the perfect joke, always finding delight and connection and humor that can bring and bind people together. Craig and Heather endured the most painful of losses, the death of their beloved Jakey of blessed memory. And in each other, they found strength in the connection they built with one another, with their family and dear friends. Heather, Craig's loving wife, at this moment, as we are in shock and full of sadness, we are with you. Heather, I want you to know that you are surrounded by extraordinary love in this sanctuary. Every one of us is a part of your community, your village. Grief is lonely and has no timeline. We know that. And even as your world breaks again, you have a community here. A community that is here with you today, will be with you tomorrow, and the day after that, and the months and years ahead, and at every moment when you need us. We can't begin to understand your unimaginable pain, and though you have unbelievable strength as a person and in your character, we are not afraid to stand alongside you in the hard moments, and we will. Cammie and Reese, your daddy loved you endlessly. And there are simply not enough words to describe the sadness we all feel as we feel for each of you. Craig's love for his children was profound. Heather talked about how his love for his children, for Jacob of blessed memory, and Cammie and Reese, and the way he engaged with each of them was beautiful and unique and special. And his memory will live on in the ways Cammie and Reese grow and walk forward in this world. Jerry and your beloved Harriet of blessed memory, we're so sorry for your loss. Jerry, I know you told me how every evening for the last number of years, Craig FaceTimed you with the girls, and that brought you so much joy and meaning and fulfillment. We are all here with you in this time of sadness. And Rick and Sean, Caroline, Melissa, Hannah, and Max, and so many aunts and uncles and cousins and dear friends, our community is holding you up as well at this time of profound loss for your extended family. And Heather's parents, Wendy and Sheldon, may you be comforted by Craig's memory and by all of us here today. We cannot comprehend the pain you feel, but it is our hope that our presence, the people here today, are the testament to what you already know so well, that Craig was one of a kind, a wonderful husband, father, son, brother, cousin, colleague, and friend. And so many of you are here because you were touched by Craig's way of being in this world. Craig always was sincerely invested in the lives of others and shared that love and sensitivity with all those around him. And the glow of his inner light brought forth joy in everything he did, and we are blessed to have known him. Let our silence in this moment reach out to the Geller family. Let their tears fall on us. Let their anger break against us. Let our love and our deeds speak for us. In the presence of boundless grief, our tradition teaches, "En od tefillah bisfatai." There is no longer prayer on my lips. Yet we must pray, just as we must weep. In this moment of profound sadness, we look to the words of our tradition, which for millennia have served as a source of comfort. And we find meaning on this day to link these words in Craig's life with the long history and traditions of the Jewish people. Psalm 121. I lift my eyes to the mountain. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian, God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard your soul, your going and coming now and forever.
Esaina el harim me'ayin yavo Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz Hine lo yanum velo yishan Shomer Yisrael Hine lo yanum velo yishan Shomer Yisrael Esaina el harim me'ayin yavo Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz.
Adonai mi yagur ba'ohalecha mi yishkom bahar kodshecha holech tamim ufo'ot tzedek v'dover emet bilevavo. Adonai, who may abide in your house, who may dwell in your holy mountain, those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who do not slander others or wrong them or bring shame upon them, who scorn the lawless but honor those who revere God, who give their word and come what may do not retract, who do not exploit others, who do not take bribes. Those who live in this way shall never be shaken.
In moments of loss and hardship, we often turn to the 23rd Psalm. It's words that we know. It speaks about a valley that is dark and full of shadows. Maybe we sit there right now in a deep valley of darkness. That's okay. Our text tells us that we can sit there for a time and feel the shadows on us. And when we're ready, Psalm reminds us at the very end that behind us, calling out to us, are goodness and mercy. They follow us, they chase us, they beg us out of darkness towards light. Now's the time to sit in the valley. And soon we'll start to hear the call of the goodness, the love, the mercy, the kindness, the joy of Craig, calling us, desperately pushing us out of dark towards light. We'll join together on the inside of your handout. The 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest the table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Adonai roi lo echsar binod dashayar bitseni alamei menuchot yanaleini nafshi yeshovev yancheini v'magelei tzedek yancheini v'magelei tzedek leman shemo gam ki elach begeit salmavet lo irara ki ata imadi shivtecha umishanetecha heima yanachamuni ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged sorai nishanta vashamen roshi kosi ravaya ach tov v'chesed yirfuni kol yemei chayai meshaveti beveit Adonai leorech yamim. Adonai roi lo echsar Adonai roi lo echsar.
To offer words of eulogy, I'd first like to call forward Craig's brother, Rick.
First, apologies to everyone for not having a reception line when you came in. I was just physically and emotionally not able to do that. I don't think Heather was either. I've asked my kids to be up here with me. And if I'm unable to finish this, I've asked Max, my son Max, to finish for me, so I'll try to get through this the best I can. It really does mean a lot that you're here today, and so I'm expressing that on behalf of myself, on behalf of Sean, my brother Sean, my dad. And with Heather, on behalf of Heather and on behalf of Wendy and Sheldon, we're so honored to have you here to say goodbye to Craig. And I also want to acknowledge, I know there are many people watching this on the internet in California and Alabama, my Aunt Joni, in Ohio, Florida, and even in Argentina. And I really appreciate you all taking the time to join us, even virtually. Our cousin, Jeremy Richards, wrote to me, and he said that the news of Craig's passing was like a bomb blast. It was sudden, it was unexpected, and utterly shocking. And that's why this is so hard. This is as bad as it gets. I hope you all have someone in your life who you love so much that you feel the way I am right now. I really appreciate what Rabbi Sherman had to say, how he described Craig. There was no exaggeration at all, which is a real testament to Craig. And I've never had so many people just call me on the phone, old friends, family members, or come up to me, hugging me in tears, just in such shock and disbelief. I've experienced grief before when my mom died, or grandparents, my Uncle Irv, but this magnitude is just unprecedented for me. We grew up in Amberley Village. It's a suburb of Cincinnati. We were a pretty typical middle-class family. We had a Pontiac station wagon, and we played in the back without seatbelts. I mean, Craig would tell you we didn't know any better. From an early age, Craig sought to make friends and influence people. And so when the Los Sanibel Elementary School Carnival came around, and Craig was in the 2nd grade and Sean was in the 3rd grade, they entered into a conspiracy. Now, I don't think they were intending to be criminals. They were just trying to help their friends. And they realized that we had a roll of tickets at home, identical to the tickets that they were selling at the carnival. And so Sean and Craig began distributing these tickets, these counterfeit tickets, to all their friends and acquaintances, and made new friends in the process. And at some point, the school administration realized that ticket sales were languishing, and they launched an investigation to find the source of this financial calamity for the school. Needless to say, Harriet, our mom, was incredibly embarrassed and angry. And my last image of this is of my mom with Sean and Craig on either side of her in Principal Ireland's office. You know, as kids and teenagers, we would visit with our California relatives, the Gettlemans, the Beckers, as well as the Gellers who moved from Cincinnati to San Francisco. And I'm just means so much that you are all here today. We lived at 2375 Larkfield Drive in Amberley, and we had one advantage over all the other kids, and that was we had an acre of woods in the backyard. It was just beautiful, beautiful woodland. And in these woods, we could blaze trails, we could climb over a giant fallen tree, we could dig a crater, and we could jump across 2 creeks and find fossils from millions of years ago. The woods was where we would play endlessly and sometimes get in trouble. As a teenager, what a better way to make friends and girlfriends than to have a clubhouse in the woods. But Craig did not want an ordinary kids' clubhouse. He studied construction, mainly through observation. And he built this clubhouse. He organized all the neighborhood kids, and Sean and I wielded hammers too. And we built this clubhouse out of studs and drywall and eventually electricity and an air conditioning unit, none of which was permitted by Amberley Village, by the way. The source of the building supplies remains a great mystery to this day. And the parties Craig would host in the clubhouse, our mom and dad, suspicious of illicit activities, would periodically raid the clubhouse, only to have all the teenagers run out the back door into the darkness of the woods. Craig was loyal and thoughtful to his friends. To the end of his life, he would call friends on their birthday or just out of the blue to maintain these connections. And from growing up with Jonathan, Michael, Peter McEvely, who we'll hear from, Nancy, Missy, Debbie, Josh, Allison, Ben, I'm just naming several who reached out to me these last horrible days. There are many others. In August 1988, I was tasked with driving Craig to The Ohio State University, where he would begin as a freshman. I looked over at the passenger seat, and there was Craig, sweating profusely, breathing strongly, heavily, his anxiety out of control, and he outwardly questioned whether he was cut out for college. Well, we got to the dormitory, we walked down the hallway, and I'm hearing, "Hey, Craig, Geller." He's seen his friends from Walnut Hills High School and elsewhere, and his face brightened, and I knew he'd be all right. He was in his element, he was social. Craig was an extrovert. Being with people energized him. He made friends easily, and as the rabbi said, showed genuine interest in others. He made those around him feel good. It's such a great quality he had. Craig was a business major, and after college, he moved to San Diego, where he lived with my Uncle Artie and Aunt Maxine, to launch a career in commercial real estate. As my Uncle Artie will tell you, Craig began his career at the beginning of the worst commercial real estate depression in memory. It didn't work out so well. But while in Los Angeles, he went to the movies with my cousin Mitch. And he saw on the screen these trivia questions and advertising for the local, donut shop. And he thought that was just such a brilliant idea. So he returned to Ohio and was the first to launch Cinemad Media, the first company in Ohio doing that. And it was a great success, this company, until some national conglomerate with national deals crushed it. But he had a backup plan. Craig always had a backup plan. He wanted to build a portfolio of rental real estate. And he found an amazing mentor, Tom Willoughby. Tom was kind, he was experienced, and he took Craig under his wing and taught him the business. And so Craig began acquiring dilapidated properties in this neighborhood of Columbus called Germantown Village. Beautiful architecture. And these homes, I remember walking into one, it was just a shambles, it was just awful. And then he would gut it. Sometimes he would preserve just beautiful historic woodwork. And in the end, he would have these magnificent apartment homes that he would rent out and begin his career. As adults, Craig became my confidant, to whom I could share anything, and I mean anything, and get a common sense response and advice in return. Craig was my travel companion to England, to Israel. Maybe tonight you all come to the Shiva and we could share some stories from those travels. When Gabrielle, I'm so glad you're here, got married in Argentina, he was our unofficial videographer, cracking jokes through the whole thing. our kids, Hannah, Max, and Melissa and Caroline, sick. She would otherwise be here. They loved their uncle. They thought it was just so much fun. And Melissa, we were driving to the airport in tears. She said she never knew anyone so funny. Craig's jokes were his never-ending adolescence. Many of them these jokes are just too inappropriate to repeat here. He poked fun at the craziness of others, not in a malicious way, and at his own anxieties and neuroses. Craig, and Sean will agree with me, was most brotherly of brothers. We had a real bond, the three of us. We were the closest of friends, and we helped each other through some of life's most difficult challenges. I was with Craig and Heather 8 years ago and shared in their indescribable pain and grief when their son, Jacob, a mere toddler, died. Jacob's death shattered Craig's faith. Craig would tell you he did not believe in God after that, certainly not in a God who listens to prayers and directs actions with a wave of a hand, like some Zeus sitting in a throne. And I don't even think the rabbi believes in a God like that. Craig's death shatters my faith in a just and merciful God. There's no mercy in any of this. This loss is so utterly cruel. It's cruel to our 87-year-old dad, who should not be bearing a 52-year-old son. It's cruel to a loving mother, to Heather, who, having lost a small child, should not be losing a husband, too. And Heather wants me to convey to you how much she loved Craig, how they were such a perfect fit, and how much Craig loved his family. And this is cruel, too, to Reese and Cammie. Reese, 16 months old, Cammie, age 4. I just cannot bear the thought of them growing up without their daddy, who loved them beyond measure. I cannot bear the thought of Heather having to raise them, these beautiful girls, without a husband who truly loved her and was by her side in the darkest of times. Craig and Heather took years to rebuild their lives, and now this is God's insult, and I take it personally. Craig's passing at such a young age, 52. The cause, not only theologically, but from officials, undetermined. Undetermined. It leaves a hole in my heart that is just irreparable. This, as my dad was saying, this whole scene is just surreal. The reason we're here is unfathomable. If Craig could speak from the beyond, he'd say, what the? I'm not going to curse in a synagogue. I have too much reverence for that. But the reality is none of us should be here. As the rabbi said, this is so wrong. This should not be happening. Space-time has warped, and we're somehow in the wrong timeline. Not 3 months ago, Mitch and Steve, Sherry, Dennis, and I buried our Uncle Irv. He was 89 years old and in poor health. It's completely insane to think that we would be doing the same to Craig 3 months later. Insane. In 33 years from now, Craig was supposed to be giving my eulogy. This is so wrong, so backwards. In December, my daughter, Melissa, and I visited Craig, Heather, and the girls. Craig and I had a great day together. Went up to Milwaukee, or visiting his properties. He's checking with the tenants, making sure everything's all right. He showed me Milwaukee. I'd never been there before. Great city. Great time in the car, reminiscing and stopping at some cheese castle on the way back. I'm sure those of you who are local know about that place. And then when Craig dropped Melissa and me off at the airport, it never occurred to me that would be the last time I would see him. On Friday, I called Craig on my way home from work. I had 10, 15 minutes to talk and talking about the day, and I pulled into the garage. I said, I'm home now. I need to get inside and see the girls before they leave. We'll talk later. We'll never talk again. We'll never speak again. The fragility of it all is what has stricken me the most this past week. So on behalf of Sean, my dad, Heather, Wendy, Sheldon, my kids, my whole family, thank you everyone for being here, for your love, for your support. Thank you.
It's a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be, and oh, to lose. A thing for fools this, a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing to love what death has touched. I want to invite Pete, Craig's close friend, forward this time.
I'm so honored to say a few words about Craig. Thank you, guys. Craig loved to laugh more than anyone I've ever known. Sean introduced me to him when we were in 8th grade. Craig was in the basement in Larkfield practicing breakdance moves on a flattened cardboard box. 5 days ago on Friday, I had what would turn out to be the last conversation of an unwavering friendship that stretched over almost 40 years. According to my call log, we talked for 53 minutes. He talked about some minor issues with a few of his properties. I vented about a few things. He mentioned that he had recently seen Rick's kids, and he said how they were such good people, so well adjusted, and that he sometimes felt like some of the jokes he made around them might make him sound a bit depraved. And we laughed, and I said, that might be the tie that binds us, the reason we've been friends for so long. And he said, yeah, you, me, Strauss. I had read an article a few days earlier about the importance of maintaining and nurturing relationships, and immediately thought about Craig. He was great at staying in touch, and he was a great listener. There were many times when my kids have unknowingly benefited from me being in a good mood because I had just talked to Craig. So I wanted to make sure I was keeping up my end of the friendship. And as we were nearing the end of our conversation on Friday, I suggested we make a plan to get together sometime before too long. Regardless of what we do, we'll probably just sit around our hotel room and laugh until we cry, I said. He agreed and suggested maybe we'd meet in Tahoe at some point, and then we said goodbye. Less than 2 days later, Sean, who had set me off on this journey 40 years earlier, called to tell me that it had now come to an end. And since then, I've thought constantly about Craig and all the things I loved about him. It's a long list, and I could go on for hours, but I'll keep it short. One thing about Craig is that although he got stressed out like everyone else does, he had a unique way of dealing with adversity and stress. While other people might get angry or depressed, use drugs and alcohol or whatever, Craig had a much more elegant approach. He just laughed. Not a chuckle either. He would laugh hysterically. I remember visiting him at one of his first investment properties in Columbus back in the 90s. He was living there and had been renting out half of the house to a tenant who was a day trader. He said to me as he put his hand to his forehead, "Pete, I've collected $6,000 in rent from this guy over the last year. He convinced me to let him manage some of my money, and he lost $6,000 of it day trading. So I haven't made a cent." And he shook his head, and then he just started laughing like it was the funniest thing he had ever heard. And I laughed with him. It was contagious. There have been times when something embarrassing happened to me, and I thought, I hope no one ever finds out about this because I would be so humiliated. But at the same time, I was thinking, I can't wait to call Craig and tell him about this, because I knew that he would laugh, not at me, but at the absurdity of the things we sometimes have to endure as humans, and that he would turn this from something negative into a good story that we could laugh about for a long time. I will never stop missing Craig, and I'm profoundly saddened by this tragedy and offer my deepest, most heartfelt condolences to his family. I will eventually be able to smile when I think about the fun we had together, and even laugh when I share his funny stories, because he taught me how to do that. And in this way, his memory will truly be a blessing.
Mitch.
Hello, everyone. I'm Craig's cousin, Mitch. And those of you who know me also know that, like Craig, I'm not shy, and I like to joke. And given my role as a university department chair, public speaking is something I do all the time. That said, this is probably the most difficult speech I've ever had to make. And frankly, I hope I can get through it. To do justice to my amazing cousin, Craig. And that, my friends, is a tall order. Let me start by saying we shouldn't be here right now. None of us. It's beyond my wildest comprehension and imagination that I stand here having to memorialize my cousin Craig. He was truly like a brother to me. And like all of you, I'm absolutely devastated by his sudden loss. Those of you who are lucky to call Craig friend or family know what a gentle soul, kind, giving, and full of love kind of person he was. And one of the qualities I really loved about him, he was such a great listener. Really a truly rare quality. You could share your deepest problems, stresses, issues, neuroses, anxieties with him, and he would always find a way to make you feel better. In fact, Craig always put the needs of others before himself. What a rare quality as well. This was one of his superpowers. And as everyone has said, the rabbi, Pete, Rick, Craig, we all know, Craig loved to laugh. His sense of humor is legendary. And to say his jokes were a bit raunchy would be an understatement. In fact, there really aren't many jokes or stories I can share here. It just wouldn't be appropriate. Or would it? What did I write? It says I'm supposed to make a fart sound. Anyway, cracking jokes and kidding around were Craig's favorite pastimes. He did this on a daily basis, and most of the time he made himself and his admitted neuroses and anxieties the butt of the joke. he'd be the first to tell you about his many neuroses and how absurd and hilarious they were. And we would often laugh together because we shared this quality. I think he did this because laughter was how he put people at ease and he connected with them. Another one of his superpowers. You see, for Craig, laughter was medicine, and he would administer it whenever and wherever it was needed, even if it meant that we were laughing at him. And let me tell you, speaking of laughter, what a laugh he had. It was infectious. I'm going to miss that laugh more than anyone can know. In fact, I've been racking my brains trying to come up with something to make us all laugh right now. I know we could all use a good laugh, and Craig would have loved that. I was going to say, so Rabbi, have a whoopee cushion in your car. But I think I'd like to go off script for a second, that's a Hollywood term, and tell you all a little story about a time we went skiing together in Tahoe. We were visiting Sean, and Johnny was there, and I'm there, and we're all, two mountain men over there. And I've been skiing since I was 8, so we're all really good skiers, and it was Craig's maybe second or third time skiing. And as we're driving up to the mountain, he goes, "I'm schwitzing, Mitch." It's 0 degrees outside, and I'm schwitzing. And you look up at the mountain, and it was just, ominous. And he goes, "I am going to break my neck today." And I'd say, "No, don't worry, we're going to take it easy. We're going to go easy. We're going to go, And of course, Sean and Johnny, they're experts. They just go shooting down the slope as soon as we get there. And me too, because it was fun. And then we would get to the bottom of a face, and, poor Craig, he's like muscling every turn. And it's so hard. It's so much energy. And then he'd get there, and he'd be exhausted. And then these two would take off to go again. And he'd go, "Wait." And I'd say, "Okay, I'll wait for you." And then we had a long day of skiing, lather, rinse, repeat. At the end of the day, we had about a mile walk to the car. This is all day long of skiing, and it was dark and cold outside. And "I don't think I can make it to the car, Mitch." And I said, "Give me your skis. Let me carry. It's just like another workout. Come on, just another mile." And he turned to me. He said, "Mitch, there is nothing fun about skiing." And that became a great source of laughter over the years. Every time I would tell that, we'd recollect that story, we would both just laugh so hard. So, to get back on script, there aren't many words I can say to express my profound sense of loss right now. Words just don't do the trick. They aren't enough. Craig leaves behind so many friends and family who loved him, and most importantly, a beautiful wife and 2 amazing little girls. We all need to be there for them and each other in this difficult time, in the same way Craig was there for us. You see, Craig loved family more than anything. He lived it every day. And the way he took care of Heather and Cammie and Reese and all of us. So now it's our turn. Let's do him proud. So although he was taken far too soon from us, I really truly pray that we can all find some comfort in the joy, happiness, friendship, and caring, the wisdom and support, and laughter and love that Craig brought to all of us. I love you, cuz. He lives in all of our hearts now forever.
Thank you. Emerson wrote, "To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a child, a garden patch, or redeemed social condition, to know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded." Craig's life was too short. And yet, in his time with us, as we know and have heard, he lived it with great beauty, relishing the ability to be in relationship with others. And the foundation of walking in this world, seeking to be in connection with others, is a testament to the family from which he came. The deep and caring connection each of you had for one another was clearly important in the way Craig moved through his life. And Craig had so many friends because he was an extraordinary listener. He always brought people close to him, drew them in with his intentional curiosity and kindness. In that spirit, Heather shared that How to Win Friends and Influence People was required reading for Craig. He always wanted to talk with people and ask about them. When Craig and Heather met in 2010, Heather shared that Craig was the only person who truly made her laugh and feel happy. This existed in their unconditional love and affection, which was, of course, sustaining them through dark times they experienced together. Heather, you shared with me that you truly loved your relationship with Craig. He was a devoted partner who showed his love in many ways, including washing the dishes every night and changing nearly all of Reese's diapers. Craig was an incredible father, and his most important relationships were with his children. And his family shared how they were truly his whole life. Heather shared how with Jacob, Craig was so protective and found love in the enduring and sweet relationship they formed. And with Cammie, they would share their 2-hour bedtime ritual with games and stuffed animals, and making time for new activities from soccer to sledding to the playground. Cammie and Craig taught each other the joy and blessing in play. And with Reese, Heather talked about how he was so connected with her. They would have ongoing conversations, talking back and forth, being fully present with one another, and that they truly had a special bond. Cammie and Reese, you are the torches that carry your father's memory and light. And no matter the goodness of his life, no matter how wonderful he was, the fact that we are here remembering him today is shattering. It's unfair and brings a deep despair. And there are no great epitaphs of consolation. Nothing makes this better, easier, or less painful. For Craig, his family shared how his faith was shattered after Jacob died, which so many are feeling over and over again right now. And there's no explanation for when bad things happen to good people. And yet our tradition tells us that when two people are in conversation or in meaningful relationship with one another, the divine presence dwells within and around them. Craig lived his life in relationship with others because he truly saw something sacred in other people, in the way he listened, in the way he asked questions, in the way he made people feel worthy and important. That is living life with a sacred purpose. And I believe the sacred and holy dwell there. Zecher Tzadik Livracha. May the memory of the righteous, may Craig's memory forever be a blessing. We continue with a prayer known as El Malei Rachamim, a prayer honoring the memory of the deceased. And in it we pray that Craig's soul be bound up in the bond of life eternal. And there's no question that Craig will be blessed in such a way and will always be bound up in the life of his family and every one of us who will be better people, who are better people for having shared life's journey with him. And after we conclude, we'll follow the family in recess to the Shalom Memorial Park for burial and Kaddish. If you're able, I invite you to please rise.
El Malei Rachamim, שוכן במרומים, עמסי מנוחה נכונה, תחת כנפי השכינה. עם קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים. את נשמת רגל יהודה בן ינקל דוד והנדליה, שהלך לעולמו. ולרחמים יסתירהו בסתר כנפיו, לעולמים ביצרו החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר אמן.
God of abundant mercy, God most high, may the soul of Craig, who has gone into eternity, find the gift of perfect peace in your embrace, together with the holy and pure, whose light shines like the radiance of heaven. And compassionate God, hold him close to you forever, so that his soul may be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May he find a home with you, and may he rest in peace. And together we can say, Amen.
This concludes the service here in the sanctuary. The interment will take place immediately at the family's plots at Shalom Memorial Park Cemetery, 1700 West Rand Road in Arlington Heights. Following the interment today, the family does invite all of you to join them, as well as those watching online, here at Congregation B'nai Jehoshua Beth Elohim, where they will sit Shiva from 6 p.m. until 9 p.m. Also, please take note on the inside of the funeral service folder, the family has asked that memorial contributions in Craig's name be made to the synagogue as well. That information's on the service folder. If you didn't receive one, we have them as you depart. For those that are watching online, that information's on the website you're currently on. For those of you joining with the family in procession, the procession will be forming in the parking lot. Please make sure you obtain an orange funeral safety sticker that should be placed in the front passenger side of the windshield. We would also ask that you please have your bright headlights and flashing hazard lights on at all times. For an additional measure of safety, our staff will be placing magnetic flags on the tops of the vehicles. We also have a support vehicle at the back of the procession to keep everyone together as best as possible. As we drive to the cemetery today, please drive as close as safety permits to the vehicle in front of you at all times. We want to avoid having any large spaces or large gaps in the procession, particularly as we pass through the intersections. At this time, I would ask everyone to please rise as Craig, his family, and the clergy are escorted from the sanctuary. Thank you.